Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Square Ring Podcast, everybody. Episode 27. We have tonight Gil Rogers.
Hello,
Big Texan and Bobby D.
And Luna.
And Luna.
Luna Vashana. He's crazy like Luna.
Most cats are. How's it going tonight?
I'm doing great. It's great to be a part of the Squared Ring meeting.
The Squared Ring podcast, but it's pretty close.
Oh, it says on the screen the Squared Ring meeting. So, okay, it's great to be on the Squared Ring podcast.
Ric Flair.
That's awesome. Hey, congratulations on the win a couple Saturdays ago at SICW. I know this is your big return to SICW.
Yeah, that was a tough match. I'll take that victory any way I can get it over. What was his name? Big Jim? Big John?
Big Joe.
Big Joe.
Big Joe. That's right, Big Joe. It was so great to see Lucky P. Larson cost him a victory, and then Lucky P. had to explain himself.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I can't remember the last time I seen a match end with a manager throwing in a towel. And that's back in like Hogan and Sheik days and stuff like that.
I guess the word got out with Lucky P that I had a devastating sleeper hold, so he threw the towel in.
Didn't want his guy to get hurt.
I learned it from Vern Gagne back when I did one of his camps.
Oh my God. I don't know. That's kind of
I am a Midwest guy. I'm from Iowa. Minnesota's only 5 hours away. So I talked to Vern and I talked to Greg.
What year did you get into wrestling, Gil?
Well, SummerSlam weekend of 1998, I picked up all my belongings in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I moved out to Heartland Wrestling in Cincinnati, Ohio, to be trained by the legendary Les Thatcher.
Wow, Les Thatcher. That's a name I haven't heard in quite some time.
Yes, and the great thing about Les Thatcher was he's about 5'8", but he had a 20-some year wrestling career. So I knew, obviously, this man was very talented to have that long of a career. And after he finished wrestling, he became a commentator out at Mid-Atlantic Wrestling in the Carolinas. And later on, also he did pro wrestling in Knoxville that had a very young Cowboy Bob Orton, Ronnie Garvin, Blackjack Mulligan, Kevin Sullivan. So he did the Knoxville territory until that finished up. And he ended up out at Smoky Mountain Wrestling for Jim Cornette. It was, if you go on the Peacock Network, you can see some Les Thatcher and Jim Ross doing commentary on Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Jim Ross was on Smoky Mountain as well?
Yes. During what, as Bruce Pritchard would say, a sabbatical, pal. Jim Ross was fired, and Jim Cornette, because he's a genius, immediately picked up Jim Ross and had him do commentary. Les did commentary with Jim Ross, and he also did it with Bob Caudle during his time at Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Wow. I mean, that is great. This is a little trivia that I didn't even know.
And I believe the one time Shawn Michaels defended the Intercontinental Championship against Buddy Landell at Smoky Mountain Wrestling on commentary is Jim Ross and Les Thatcher.
Wow.
And it's a tremendous match. Go out of your way to find it. It was Shawn Michaels saying, now I'm the star. Back in the day, I was the rookie, and Landell, you were the star, but now roles are reversed. And it just told a great story.
Literally after this podcast, I'm going to go look for that because that sounds very interesting.
I highly recommend it. It's Shawn Michaels in a whole different world, and it's just an amazing match. You get to see the best of Shawn Michaels, and you get to see the best of Buddy Landell. He's trying to redeem himself, his demons from the past of the drugs, and just poor decisions he's made in his life, and now he's got this opportunity to turn everything around and become the Intercontinental Champion. It's tremendous.
That is cool. Hey, yes. I know Nathan asked you what when did you get started, but I want to go back even further. I always like to ask all of our guests, what made you become a wrestler? Were you a fan? Were you a kid growing up loving it? What, we're all fans, but what actually made you determine, I can do this, I'm going to do it?
Believe it or not, I'm from a town in Watkins, Iowa, population 100. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about independent pro wrestling. I didn't know about a territory or what do you call it? Jim Cornette called it the mud show wrestling. I didn't know anything about professional wrestling until one day, late 1985, there was commercials on our NBC affiliate. Coming to KWWL here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Junkyard Dog, Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Roddy Piper. I'm thinking, what is this? I don't know what it is, but I'm going to tune in Sunday night, 10:30 p.m. and find out. And then I saw the British Bulldogs. I saw the Dynamite Kid perform. I was like, oh my God. The British Bulldogs were the most amazing wrestlers I had ever seen in my life. But what hooked me right away was the opening to Superstars of Wrestling. It was Thriller. They were playing the Thriller theme song from Michael Jackson, and it's Hulk Hogan backstage at MSG walking to the ring to face the Iron Sheik. And I saw this opening. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what this is, but I'm tuning in. And then I saw the British Bulldogs wrestle and watched Dynamite Kid, and I was hooked after that.
I mean, I agree with you. The British Bulldogs, I mean, back in the day, not a whole lot of the wrestlers, I mean, they were all like, beer belly, big tough guy wrestlers. But the Bulldogs, I mean, they took working out to a whole nother level. I mean, they were built, even for the short stature that Dynamite Kid was. I mean, I also don't think that they get enough credit.
He was just a pit bull. And I saw Dynamite Kid, and he was a little guy like me, but he was just so jacked and just amazing, just his whole presentation. And then I saw Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and it's like, God, I don't know what this is, but I love it. And next thing you know, I'm going to the grocery store, I'm buying Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Inside Wrestling, whatever I can get. I was buying all the wrestling magazines.
Okay, so obviously you were a fan and you were hooked. What made you think that you could do it?
Well, growing up, I was just satisfied being a fan, and I loved the Ultimate Warrior. Later on, I liked Bret Hart in 1993, but about 1996, I got to a point where I don't want to have regrets in my life. I have no idea if I can become a professional wrestler, but damn it, I want to try. So I got a job in a factory in 1996, and I worked there for over 2 years, and it was always like 100 degrees in the building, but it was the best way for me to get the most amount of money in a small amount of time. And I worked there in this shitty factory for 2 years, saved as much money as I could, and I picked up everything I had. So I go from Watkins, Iowa, population 100, and I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio to be trained by the legendary Les Thatcher. So it was around, 1996 is when I wanted to become a professional wrestler. And then 1998 is when I actually started the training to see if I could do it or not.
How long was your training? Most people around here, they always say it's about a year. Some said, even 2 years. How long did Les, train you?
So my training, I made my debut in 8 months. I know nowadays it's 8 months. They debut in 3 weeks now, right?
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Not the quality ones.
I know. That's a whole other can of worms there. But
Not from the Youth Academy. 3 weeks.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing. I found out that you can be doing really well in training, but until you make the commitment and you show up one day at training with that brand new pair of wrestling boots from Stagecoach or wherever, when you showed up at training with those wrestling boots, Les Thatcher looked at you in just a whole other different light. And when I got those wrestling boots, he's like, okay, maybe this kid's getting close to ready for his debut. And lucky for me, it was around the 8-month mark, and one of my best friends there at the time, his name was Jeremy Jett, he hated his wrestling boots. He'd rather have those Atomics like that Punk wears now or he wore 10 years ago. Me, you know, I wear wrestling boots. That's just the way it is. Anyway, I bought those wrestling boots from him, and then all of a sudden Les just looked at me a different way. And next thing you know, MTV wanted to film a documentary called True Life, I Want to Be a Pro Wrestler. And MTV contacted several wrestling schools, and they wanted nothing to do with it. And Les Thatcher was like, absolutely, we'd love to have you come in here. It's free publicity.
Yeah.
And yeah, so MTV comes in, and originally, and this is the thing, you know how you, Big Texan and Bobby D, you know, when someone screws up, someone else gets the opportunity, right?
Right.
Well, they brought in a kid from Chicago, and they were going to tell this story, him going through training and then being a battle royal, and then, so he was going to go through training and then be in a battle royal, plus you also had Tony Atlas at the end of his career, and then you also had Triple H chasing for his very first WWF championship.
Yeah.
And apparently, this spoiled, rotten brat kid from Chicago turned out to be a crackhead, and he didn't like to go to training. And he even sold, back in the day, we didn't, record everything on our phone. You actually had a camera. If you remember Road Rules and the Real Life or whatever, I can't remember back in the day.
Real World and
Real World, yeah, where they had a camera. They go in that room and there's a camera. Well, he had a camera, and this idiot from Chicago pawned off his camera for cash to go buy crack in downtown Cincinnati.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and here's a story. This is a little inside story that you guys have never heard. I'm from Watkins, Iowa. I'm naive as hell. I'm 21 years old. He's like, before I became Rory, or Gil, I was Steve. Hey, Steve, can you take me down to the downtown Fifth Third Bank in Cincinnati, Ohio? I was like, okay, but we got to go to training later. Nah, it's okay. Let's just go down there. I have to go down to the downtown branch to get money out. And I was so stupid at the time, I didn't think of, why don't you just go to the local ATM? I was naive, that the hayseed from Iowa. I was like, okay, I'll take you downtown. And I drive this Chicago guy downtown, and I park the car, and he goes, I'll be back in a little bit. And he gets out of the car and goes walking down the street to the bank. 30 minutes go by, and we got down there at 5:30. And finally, I'm like, where's he at? It's getting dark. I'm downtown Cincinnati. It's a little scary down here, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And I go walk up to the Fifth Third Bank. They were closed at 5 o'clock. And so I'm freaking out. I go over to the payphone. Yes, folks, back in the day, you had to use a payphone. You put money in it, and you made a phone call. I called the school. I called GQ Masters, who's also on the True Life show. I go, GQ, what do? I don't know where Matt Taglia went. It's downtown Cincinnati, and it's getting dark. He goes, you better get back to the school, brother. I was like, okay. And I drove back to the school. We didn't see Matt Taglia for 3 days. So,
oh my God,
he's on a bender downtown in a crack house or what? I don't know. But next thing you know, MTV's going around and interviewing everyone at the school. And they come over to me and they talk to Steve Moss. It's like, oh, tell us your story. And yeah, I'm from Iowa, small town Iowa. I worked at a factory for 2 years saving to come to wrestling school. And they're like, Les, we like this kid. Let's just go this direction. So it's just like back in the day when Triple H was punished and Stone Cold Steve Austin got to win the King of the Ring. Austin wasn't supposed to win the King of the Ring in '96.
Right.
So it just goes to show you, when one guy screws up, another guy gets an opportunity. So I have no idea where my career would have went if that kid wouldn't have screwed up and I wouldn't have been on MTV's True Life. I want to be a pro wrestler. I might have had a 1 minute 30, or maybe 1 minute, maybe 30-second spot on that show. Instead, it turned into 20 minutes, all because of some moron.
Sounds like Bill took him to a bender on purpose there.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad you went that direction.
I do have to tell you, though, I did say, I don't know. I think you better go check his room. And then Les somehow got in the hotel room and saw the drug paraphernalia in there. So did that make me a stooge? I don't know.
Well, I really thought you were going to say that the guy was robbing the bank. That's where I thought you were going with that.
Oh, no, he's not Nick Cage. He didn't rob a bank. He was down there to smoke crack.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's more today's reality TV, robbing banks and that kind of crap.
That's how it seemed like it was going to go. You had to go down to that bank because he already stuck that bank up and realized all the systems and stuff.
And
it's got to be that branch, wait down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And here's what's really crazy when I think about it. Right by the training center, there was a gas station that had an ATM machine. And it's like, I didn't even think of that at the time, but it's like he had to go to the downtown bank.
That's crazy. So, I mean, how cool is that? That you finally get moved up, you're there, you're training for 8 months, and then MTV comes a calling. I mean, you can't plan that any better. Now, you said that was Heartland Wrestling?
Yes, Heartland Wrestling. They were a WCW developmental, and they were also a WWE developmental. In 2001.
I thought that's what they were. So
let me tell you about my wonderful luck in this business. I went broke around 2001, early 2001, and I went home. I had to move back to Iowa, and within 3 months, they became a WWF developmental. Next thing you know, we're doing all these local bar shows in Cincinnati, and Tommy Dreamer and Raven are teaming up against local HWA guys. And then the Island Boys, who were Umaga and Rosie, they were there. Oh, my God. Jamie Noble was there. Shannon Moore, Mike Sanders, oh, my gosh, Jindrak, O'Hare.
Wow.
God, Rikishi came in too. Haku. All these guys were here. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm missing out. And I went back in 2002, and within 3 months, it was shut down.
Oh, my God.
Budget cuts, pal.
Man. Would you run out of money and have to move back home, or?
Yeah, I was broke because I couldn't afford. I couldn't afford being a waiter and just paying for rent and paying for vitamins, if you know what I mean, brother. Because I wanted a job, Vince McMahon. Say your prayers, take your vitamins, if you know what I mean. And, yeah.
All right, so
it makes so much sense now when I look back at it. Bull Payne, he wrestled all over the Midwest and did other things, and it's like he just used to laugh how gassed up I would get to try to get a tryout and everything. And he's like, it's like you're too short. You can go do your little tryout match. You can go practice in the ring and put on your little show, but it doesn't matter. They know in advance who they want. And when John Laurinaitis was in there, they don't want any 5'8" guys. If you're Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Jamie Noble, yeah, you're in, but you have to be that good if you're going to be a small guy. And it's like, I'm pretty good, but I'm not great, So it's like, my dream was to be in the WCW Cruiserweight division. That's where I wanted to be because I knew I could fit in there. It's like I wanted to be like the Shane Douglas of the Cruiserweight division because that was one of my heroes, the franchise Shane Douglas.
Finally, another WCW guy.
Yeah. and I knew I had charisma like Chris Jericho, so I could be a Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair, Shane Douglas kind of heel in that whole cruiserweight division. But when they closed, it just all there was WWF, and God damn it, I wish there was an AEW back then. When my traps were up to my ears, it's like, oh man, I was just a small guy at WWF doing the jobber matches on TV. You know, it's like I had so much more to offer, but all they looked at was my height. And John Laurinaitis, I used to be in the walk down the hallway with my little suit on and all that crap you're supposed to do. And Laurinaitis would be on his phone, and I swear to God, I think he was pretending to be on the phone so he didn't have to talk to short guys like me.
Oh my God, that's crap.
Yeah, that's how it was, man. It sucks, and you can't do anything about it, but that's just where the business was at that time and place.
All right. So
that's like you had mentioned a name earlier, and I immediately thought, underrated, Shannon Moore, and I credit that all to his size.
Oh, and here's another thing. I was at HWA as Rory Fox. I was going to have Mike Sanders really liked me. They're like, when Mike Sanders came down, they let him book after a while because he was very creative. And I was going to do a program with Shannon Moore. And then he got called up to SmackDown to be Matt Hardy's lackey, Matt Hardy version 1. And
yeah.
I was going to feud with Shannon Moore. Back then, we had a kind of agreement with OVW, and on Sundays we would film our HWA TV down at OVW, and Jim Cornette did commentary.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that must have been
missed opportunities,
So when you were going down to OVW,
yeah,
were you like kind of in the pack of the Batista, Randy Orton, John Cena?
No. I went down one time though, and we watched one. Okay, OVW. They filmed on Wednesdays. I think it was Wednesdays in that little shitty building. Right. And a group of us HWA guys, Cody Hawk, who trained LA Knight, and John Moxley, and Ray Steele, and a few of us went down and we watched it. And I got to see Batista in person do his thing. And he was just out of this world. It's like Jim Cornette built him up as this mythical creature called Leviathan that came out of the river. Oh my God, if you've seen that SOB in person, holy shit. I mean, you believed in this guy. He was out there just jacked to the gills and had that thick chain necklace. Mm-hmm. And then that's where it spawned off, and I'm like, we can do a Tuesday night taping. It was called the Tuesday Night Showcase in HWA in Cincinnati. We would do that every Tuesday, which was great at HWA. So every Tuesday night you had a TV-style booking, and then Friday, Saturday, or whatever, you had bookings there. So that was 3 bookings a week. So I was pretty happy with that. But yeah, I didn't. The only time I crossed paths with John Cena was okay. We did a Columbus Clippers ballpark game. They're the AAA affiliate of the Yankees, and WWF helped us out. They brought in Ron Simmons, John Cena, and I'm not sure who else. But before the Columbus Clippers baseball game, we had a wrestling show, and I wrestled Shark Boy on that for the HWA Cruiserweight title, and that's the one time I ran into John Cena back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering because, John Cena also was a big part of that MTV, I want to be, True Life, I want to be a professional wrestler.
No, he wasn't on that.
He was on MTV. Maybe it was a different name, I guess. Because
you're thinking of something else. John Cena was not on True Life, I want to be a pro wrestler. He was still the prototype out in California.
Okay, I did.
Yeah, I remember going over his meal plan. That's what, the only thing that stands out from that to me. It was insane.
Yeah, because it was like a dozen
eggs.
He
was on the Learning Channel. They did something on that California with Rick Bassman, that wrestling group out there.
Yes, it was Rick Bassman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also a VHS tape out there of Rick Bassman's training out there, and John Cena's all over that.
I actually used some of
I
the
think somebody knows
techniques.
on it too.
I use some of the techniques at the Ace Academy when I'm training down there on Tuesdays.
Yeah, there's fundamentals on there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, especially when they talk about how to do a promo. And John Cena's pretty funny when he was talking about how he's half man, half machine, and everything like that.
And he did the Jim Carrey Ace Ventura thing where Jim Carrey's in the nut house, Ace Ventura, and he does the whole the replay. Let's rewind that black, and I guess when John Cena was prototyping, he would like do the rewind and
Yeah. So
and he also had like
50,
he also had like 50 pairs of trunks with 50 pairs of boots. And I have no idea who bought all them boots for him.
I'd say those are pricey.
Yeah.
well,
Before he went to nothing but jean shorts and made him look like he was 3 feet tall.
Yeah, how crazy is that? He went to jean shorts and he had all those trunks and boots at home. He should have, like, everyone now like sells their gear, like Matt Cardona, that piece of crap. He sells his gear after he does a big show every time. And
does he really?
He's just got a storage full of all his different boots and trunks.
It makes me wonder, the stories you hear of Vince McMahon kind of pulling jokes on his wrestlers, like that was one of them. Like, oh, he's got 50 pairs of boots and trunks. You're going to jean shorts and tennis shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. God, so many things are a rib up there.
Oh, I bet. I bet. What was next on your wrestling career after the? Well, first, did you get anything out of the MTV show? Did you get more bookings, or were you seen more? Or
Goddamn cat! You got to play with that now. Okay. So, one thing I wanted to tell you, before I went broke and had to leave Cincinnati, when I was at HWA, all the dark matches, all the extra work mostly went to the OVW guys because they were in Louisville. Now, some of our guys got it because Les would select them, and I wasn't one of those guys. See, Les had to really trust you because back then it's like, I'm vouching for you, and if you go make an ass of yourself there, it reflects on me. And I wasn't getting booked anytime soon for that stuff. So within 3 months of moving back home to Iowa, I took the initiative. This is 2001. So I had to send in a VHS tape, a resume, and an 8x10, and I mailed it off to Titan Tower. And 2 weeks later, I got a message on my voice machine from Kevin Kelly. This is Kevin Kelly from World Wrestling Federation. We'd like to bring you in for some bookings at some point. Are you available? So anyway, I was jumping up and down. I was so happy. This was one of the greatest days of my life. It's like I got WWF's interest, and it had nothing to do with my trainer. It was solely on my VHS tape, my resume, and my 8x10.
Uh-huh.
And I got myself booked in Minneapolis and Grand Forks, North Dakota, which was very sweet for me because Les got to watch me on TV, and he had nothing to do with it.
Oh, yes. That's awesome.
Yes, I got booked for Minneapolis, which was in, let me think here. What's the Target Center, which holds 20,000 people. We're talking, this is the Attitude Era. I'm 22, 23 years old, and I'm scared shitless.
Yeah.
And I've never done this before, and I'm extra talent, and I know no one. And I sit at the table by myself, kind of eating my food, and I talk to Ivory. And Ivory's like, yo, you got to just go around and mingle and talk to people. I'm like, really? Yeah. And so I started going around and talking to people. But as soon as I was done eating, I got in my gear and I went down to ringside. And I saw Tony Gurria. So I just started doing my little Hindu squats while the other extras are sitting there talking to each other, sitting in the stands. And Tony Gurria comes up to me and goes, yeah, you don't mind getting beat up, do you? I'm like, no, sir. So next thing you know, Rory Fox from Watkins, Iowa, population 100, is wrestling Haku on metal right before Monday Night Raw in front of 20,000 people at the Target Center. And,
Oh, yeah.
and to add to that, the match before me was a dark match. Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, accompanied by the governor of Minnesota, Jesse the Body Ventura.
Wow.
And I saw Jesse the Body Ventura smoking his cigars backstage, and it's supposed to be no smoking in the building. And it's like, are you going to tell the governor he can't smoke his cigar?
Right.
And so I end up wrestling Haku. And the crazy thing is we're sitting down in the hallway. I'm sitting on one of them boxes that they have for TV. And I'm going over the match with Haku. He's telling me what I wanted to do. And here comes Eddie Guerrero pulling his gear bag in. He's like way late. He kind of just looks like, And he's walking to the locker room, and Haku's like, okay, brother, we do this. Then I backdrop you. And then he sees Eddie Guerrero. Okay, and then I give you the Tongan death grip. And that was the night, if you read the dirt sheets back then, Chris Benoit had to hide Eddie Guerrero that night because he was so messed up and
Wow.
not what he was supposed to be. And so I ended up having my match with Haku. And Haku, I'll never forget Haku doing this for me because it wasn't Monday Night Raw, it was metal. So they would sell for the extra talent a little more in that. And he let me hit him with a flying shoulder tackle off the second rope, and I went up to the top rope, and boom! I hit Haku with the missile drop kick. I got a 2 count on him, and we had a little bit of back and forth. And really, I really feel like that was the best match of my career because of the stage I was on and how generous he was with me. Because when I went and did Monday Night Raw with Umaga, I went up, I'm 5'8", I was like 210. My traps were up to my ears. I had the pecs, I had the abs, I had everything. I was like, this is my time. I got to get signed now.
Yes.
And Lauren and I saw my height, whatever, didn't care. And I'm out there with Umaga in less than 2 minutes. And this is where I knew I was screwed. The night before was a pay-per-view. Umaga defeated Ric Flair, 16-time champion Ric Flair, in 5 minutes on a pay-per-view. So What the fuck's going to happen to me on Monday Night Raw? And then even Armando Estrada goes, we go from the 16-time champion to you. And, this is the other part. Dusty Rhodes was a producer for the match.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I feel like Forrest Gump. I've got all these stories. And Dusty's like, okay, baby. Now, I don't want you to be scared, but I want you to be like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm ready to fight. And Armando saying, hey, I'm going to you. And I'm like, hey, I don't know. And then I'm ready to fight, and the next thing you know, they hit Umaga's music. And I'm like, I look at the crowd, and I go, oh, my God. And the scariest part in this match was there's 15,000 people, Columbus, Ohio. And they told me, okay, after he hits his ass bump in the corner, Umaga's going to just drag me to the middle of the ring like I'm just roadkill, I'm dead. So if you're laying there dead, guess what? When you hit that splash, you can't raise your arms up and catch him, I had to lay there flat and dead. And I'm like, well, I guess if he kills me, it might as well be on live TV. And I got my eyes closed. I'm just praying to God. And Umaga does the big splash up the top rope. I didn't feel a thing. He took care of me. And the other part that I'll never forget about Umaga was he goes, okay, when I give you that ass bump in the corner, make sure your head's under the second turnbuckle. And all it was his ass hitting that turnbuckle.
Ah,
yeah,
that is cool.
he took good care of me. But yeah, I was scared to death. I had my eyes closed, and I didn't know what was going to happen when he hit that splash. I thought he'd just crush me. Like, if you see old video, Superfly used to crush dudes on that splash.
Yeah.
And I couldn't protect myself at all. I had to go off of Umaga.
You're plain dead. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, terrifying.
So you fought Haku, you fought Umaga.
One other thing.
LA
This
Knight?
is one time. Oh, this is the other thing. I forgot to tell you the thing. This is the one time I went through that curtain and I heard a very familiar voice. He stood. Great job, Rory.
Really?
So yeah. So the time I go and just lay and be a dead body there, that was the one time I got from Vince McMahon. Great job, Rory. I didn't get that when I wrestled Stevie Richards on ECW during my 3 years in Texas when I wrestled Stevie Richards on ECW in Houston. Because when I walked the ring, I was walking the ring like I was the newest talent acquisition. I was healing on that crowd. I wasn't like, okay, guys, I'm really scared. I'm just so happy to be here. I healed on that crowd like I owned them. And I walked into the ring, and I kept healing on that crowd. And this was Stevie Richards' first match back from his throat surgery. And they got like this inspirational video on the Titantron. And I'm still healing on the crowd. And you hear, "Boo!" And Scott Armstrong finally says, Rory, kayfabe, brother, you got to be quiet now. Anyway, I was going out there trying to get a job, and it was about Stevie Richards getting over in his first match back. And I didn't get a great job Rory that time.
Yeah, what were you saying about LA Knight?
Oh, well, I heard that you wrestled LA Knight too and beat him.
Yeah, I was an HWA champion, and Dayton, Ohio, he won a battle royal to get a title match, and I defeated LA Knight that night. Yeah.
Yeah.
My youngest son runs around the house yelling that all the time.
Oh, yeah. My best friend's son does it now, too. He goes, yeah. I'm so happy for him because he came to HWA around 2004. And, he did his time at HWA. Then he did Impact Wrestling. Or no, he did WWE Developmental. Then he did Impact Wrestling. And I guess if he would have stuck around NWA, he was going to be an NWA champion, not Matt Cardona. But, he can't pass up a WWE contract. So then he went to NXT and did his time there. And I'm just so happy for him. This is like a 20-year chase for him. And he has all the tools. And they're just finally realizing it now. And it just pisses me off that it's like, well, he's 40, so we have to have him be a manager now. Now, I know he's not AJ Styles, but why is it okay for certain guys to be 40 coming in? It's like they have to invest 5 years in you, and then they got to get their money back on their investment. It's like, who cares? He came in, and he's over. The crowd is telling you, we love this guy. I hope they put the U.S. title on him. And don't make the same mistake. Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder got over on his own. If you remember back when The Rock returned to Survivor Series that one year in New York, the crowd was chanting, we want Ryder at him. And it got so loud, The Rock had to actually acknowledge it. Like, yeah, I like Ryder too. And then he finished his promo. But it's like, Ryder got punished for it. But it's like, Triple H is in charge now. And it's like, okay, this guy's getting over. Let's go with it. Not Vince McMahon. It's like, no, he's not a main eventer. I don't care what the fans do. And it's like, I hope they're finally smartening up and just going with it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I heard this interview with him, and he said that they kept coming after him too, because they kept coming after him, but they weren't willing to offer him any more money than he was currently making on the independents. Or or Impact. They were just offering the exact pay or less. And he said, why go to the WWE and start all over when I'm making that money right now? and
which he's showing. It's like, I'm not a mark. You got to pay me more money if you want me to come. I'm tired of being a sporting artist.
Yeah, then he talked about him, I guess it was at Impact that he finally reached the ceiling that he didn't think he can go any further, and that's why he went ahead and went for WWE, even though it was less money than what he was currently making. He thought, well, maybe...
He took that chance on himself. It's like, it's a temporary setback to get ahead, And
right. I mean, it's clearly working for him. And he said, hopefully, after he gets over and everything like that, then they'll renegotiate his contract. So I'm hoping. I mean, he's over. I mean, the fans are behind him.
They said his 2 minutes he was on last week with that promo has gotten like 4 million views on their social media. And his dark match segment on at Madison Square Garden, they put that on their social media too, and that blew away anything else on there for views.
I mean, I am glad for him. I mean, but it seems like you should have been there too. I mean, you had the dark matches, you doing Raw with Umaga. It just amazes me that there's a certain look that they look for, and if you don't match that criteria, they don't even pay attention.
Yeah, Mark Carano really liked me. I know he's the bad guy later on that was putting what Mickey James is.
Stuff in a trash bag.
He was always nice to me, and he booked me every time. So I don't have anything bad to say about him. He always treated me nice. Now, when Nova took over after Tommy Dreamer, I couldn't get any bookings. Tommy Dreamer would book me in Missouri and Harley's territory. But when Nova got in there, he would not take my calls. He would not book me. What else I was going to say?
Was there a little heat between you two, or?
If there was, I don't know. But it just, sometimes certain guys, they just have their guys,
Yeah.
When was the first time you got into SICW?
I was going to tell you, this is the part I didn't know. I got smartened up after it was way too late. Apparently, it's not just your wrestling match you do there. You're supposed to get a hold of the Brooklyn Brawler, and you go in the room and you cut a promo. I didn't know that. I never sought him out to go find him and say, hey, I got a promo, because around 2006, 2007, 2008, I grew my hair out. And I had a gimmick because it was popular at the time. It was, child actors. You know how they all went to crap when they became adults? I was going to be the child actor turned professional wrestler, Corey Cameron. And I had the CK trunks, and I would talk about Gary Coleman and all these other guys I didn't like, and they're all mere extras compared to me. And I did my due diligence. I studied all the greats of professional wrestling, Bret Hart, Ric Flair, and now I'm on to the biggest role of my career, and that's Intercontinental Champion in the World Wrestling Federation. And I had the little movie set chair that the Miz had out later on, and the bottles of I have to drink Evian water and all this stuff. I pitched it to Impact Wrestling and I pitched it to WWE, and either they didn't watch the videotape or what, I don't know. But Corey Cameron, the child actor turned pro wrestler, that was my. I thought if I have that gimmick, that'll take care of the height difference, because I'm just this bitter former child actor turned pro wrestler. They just never bet on it. Oh, I did. Oh, here's another little thing. At one of the tapings there, when I did the ECW match, I got a hold of Michael Hayes, and I started pitching my idea about the former child actor turned pro wrestler. And I really had his ear for about 3 minutes, and just telling me he was curious how it translates to pro wrestling and all this stuff. And next thing you know, the GM commissioner was her name, Tiffany from Playboy. Michael, I have some questions about tonight's script. And next thing you know, Michael Hayes had to go and went off with that dumb bitch. And I didn't get to pitch my idea anymore. But I had Michael Hayes' ear for like 3 minutes, damn it.
You just weren't endowed enough to keep his attention.
Right, because I wasn't currently on the roster and I wasn't a chick with tits.
Oh,
No
my goodness.
TNA, huh?
I would get distracted too, I can't lie.
Oh, and one time I got to wrestle in Kansas City. I got to wrestle Heidenreich on SmackDown, and $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase was the agent. And this is when Heidenreich was a baby face, and I have all my friends. I'm looking for friends. And then I cheap shotted him and attacked him right at the bell, and I got to get some punches and kicks in and all that. And then he hulks up and like, whoa, I'm your friend. And then gave me his finisher like 30 seconds later, and then they brought some hot chick in the ring, and he's made a new friend. And the other goofy thing I did the next night was I was one of the security guards for the contract signing of Triple H versus Batista, Hell in the Cell, and I guess this is when Batista was defending the title against Triple H at Hell in the Cell. The first time ever a contract signing where they didn't start beating each other up. So we just stood out there and nothing happened. Me, Jimmy Jacobs. Oh my God, you should have seen Jimmy Jacobs dressed as a security guard. He had his hair in a ponytail and he had all these big loop earrings and this baggy security guard outfit on. It's like, oh my God, this degenerate's a security guard. And,
Did you wear the eyeliner as a security guard?
Yeah, and the eyeliner. And so I was security for a contract signing that Ned didn't have a brawl. Yeah.
That would be a badge of honor, though. You held the peace.
Yeah, I guess I kept Batista and Triple H in check and said, hey, none of that tonight. Oh, and the other thing I do remember from that moment was I was in the ring of security when Triple H's music hit, and you see him walk down to the ring. I mean, that's the closest I ever got to like that feeling like Triple H is your opponent and he's walking to the ring, man. It was goosebumps seeing him walk down to the ring, like looking at you.
Right.
So,
man.
I mean, that's something too that a lot of people can say they never had. You know, I know it's not a contract, but it's a pretty cool moment.
Hey, you've gotten a lot further than a lot of people. To say everyone that you've hung out with and was able to beat and actually wrestle in the ring, I mean, your career is right there. I mean, that's so awesome.
And the other
And
thing
I'm going to steal one of Jim's questions here real quick, Gil.
Oh yeah.
Up to this point, who was your favorite opponent?
Wow.
I stole that one directly from Jim. That's one of his questions.
Oh yeah. Now my favorite match was probably Haku at the Target Center, but my favorite opponent was at Central Empire Wrestling. I don't know, like 5-6 years ago, outdoor show. I got to wrestle the Barbarian.
Oh yeah.
And this is how far back I go with the Barbarian. 1988 WWF Superstars of Wrestling TV taping in Cedar Rapids. The dark match before the 25 matches they filmed that night. Powers of Pain versus Demolition. This is the Powers of Pain fresh off dropping the weights on Animal's face, and he's wearing the hockey mask, and they left the NWA. So you got Demolition versus the Powers of Pain as we're getting into the building and sitting down. And Demolition were the tag team champions.
Uh-huh.
And this was a non-title match, and the Powers of Pain went over that night. And Baron Von Rossky was their manager. He had the hood up, and he was called the Baron. But anyway, fast forward, goddamn, 20 years later, I'm wrestling the Barbarian, and I was such a good heel that night, I had him laughing out in the ring. And I was out there puffing my chest, like, get over here. And this is the Tongan badass, man. He's messed up a lot of people over the years. And I had him laughing, now every time I see him, I get the big hug. Rory, how are you, brother? And it's just little things like that, you know. He sounds. Barbarian sounds like Elmo or one of them Sesame Street characters, you know, when you talk to him. And it's just,
I don't think a normal person can say that.
I actually get to call the Barbarian. I go, Barbie, how you doing, buddy? I get to call him Barbie.
I think a lot of other people get punched in the face for that, so you see yourself up.
And he always smiles because he just remembers how much I made him laugh out in the ring in that match. And that was the first match I've ever experienced the whole, let's go around ringside and hold the heel back and every fan gets to chop you in the chest.
Nice.
That sucked. Because I riled this crowd up for 5 minutes on the mic before Barbarian came to the ring, so these fans wanted to kill me, and then I'm getting just the shit beat out of me, and Barbarian just smiling ear to ear. You okay, brother? Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I've also got to wrestle Ricky Martin in Des Moines there. We didn't lock up for 5 minutes. We just kept going back and forth, rock and roll. I was channeling Roddy Piper. I hate rock and roll and all this shit. So yeah, that was another memorable one. I got to wrestle the Honky Tonk Man in San Antonio, Texas. This is back when he would actually hit you with the shake, rattle, and roll and take a bump. Not like when he came to Kansas City years later. He'd go the shake, rattle, roll, and then he stands there and the other guy bumps to the ground. What really makes this special is I lost to the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time with a guitar shot.
That's
it
awesome.
took a guitar for Honky Tonk Man to beat Rory Fox.
Now, did he gimmick it for you, or did you take it like some of the other wrestlers that blame him for his?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm like Jake the Snake. Hey, he messed my neck up, man.
Yeah.
It led me to cocaine and painkillers and everything.
At what point did you get involved in SICW and meet Herb Simmons?
Oh, one other thing before that. One cool thing about Honky Tonk Man was Honky Tonk Man would gimmick his wrist tape so you could take it off him and choke him with it so the referee couldn't see it.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was the first time I experienced that. Okay, and you asked about SICW?
Yes,
What point did you meet Herb Simmons and he bring you in?
Okay, how that came about was, I was just searching on Facebook and YouTube, and somewhere I found out about SICW, and I saw the East Carondelet shows, and I saw wall to wall of fans that loved pro wrestling, and they were so loud and just a packed house, and they would bring in all these legends. I'm sorry. And that's my bread and butter. And then I happened to run into Herb in Waterloo at the Hall of Fame show around, 2018, because I had to wait till the NWL closed, so I could be Gil Rogers. And I just said, Herb, I see what you're doing. I love the product. I would love to come down sometime. And Herb was happy that I came up and spoke to him and paid my respect and told him how much I loved the wrestling there. And it was just a matter of time. And Herb booked me down there, and I started doing the shows. What I was doing, and yeah, it just after that I was booked whatever show I could do, and the whole locker room was great to me, and they took me right in like I was one of those guys, and I love it. It's one of my favorite places to wrestle. And one time I did ask Herb, I was like, I never got to meet Larry, and I just went to Herb. I was like, do you think Larry would like my wrestling and what I do?
Oh.
And he goes, Gil, I really think he would, and I think he would have liked how you got the Bob Backlund vibe going on, and he said, I really think he would have liked your wrestling. I was like, cool.
I just posted on my Facebook today a match from you and me in 2018 at SICW.
Oh, my God. Oh.
Hitting that knee lift still.
I want to stop you for just 1 second. You NWL, right?
Yeah.
So you were part of, were you part of Kansas or you part of Missouri?
No, I was a Kansas City guy because I wrestled there when it was Metro Pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a
So
lot of people don't know about NWL. I think
yeah.
I brought it up maybe once or twice before, but it was, and you can correct me if I get anything wrong, but it was a guy who, I guess had some sort of internet website or something to do with technology, and he was able to sell off his company, came into a lot of money, and decided he was going to be a wrestling promoter.
Yeah,
And then
I heard like 30 million when he sold that business.
it's crazy. I heard it was millions too, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
Um, and he actually came to Herb and was talking to Herb and Larry, and
Yeah.
he was asking them how he could make money in this business, or how he could make $1 million, and their like favorite saying was, all right, how can you make $1 million? Well, you start off with 3 and you lose 2, and now you got $1 million. But yeah, the whole Missouri franchise of it closed down like pretty soon, like maybe 6 months after he kind of built it up. But I heard that Kansas City stayed running for a while. How
Yeah.
long was that Kansas City, up and running?
No, after they shut down St. Louis and they kind of combined their rosters and kind of cherry picked who they wanted from St. Louis. What was it? In 2018, there around April, the last 2 months, we were doing 450 every 2 weeks in Overland Park.
Wow.
And their little spot shows were doing 200, 250. But we were making money at the end, but I think Major hit that dollar amount he was willing to spend, and that was it. And what was weird, though, was right around tax time. So I didn't know if someone told him, okay, this is done, whatever. But
Uh-huh.
we were making money at the end. We had a hot product. We were about to go into a new building and start doing our TV, and Gil Rogers was finally going to get his first win in Kansas City because that was the story. Every show, I lost every show I was on, but I always got screwed. And so the fans still believed in me every match, and it was like, okay, this is the show. Gil's going to win, and it was going to finally pay off. And then it just all shut down. So I guess they spent way too much money up front, and then they just hit that dollar amount. It's like, I don't care how successful it is now, but it's over. But
That's
I have to
crazy.
tell you, if it wasn't for NWO, there never would be a Gil Rogers.
Really?
NWO gave me stagecoach boots. I got a whole tracksuit. I got wrestling trunks. I got the Gil towel. I mean, all that stuff you see, this T-shirt, this was from their shows.
Wow.
And I had this whole wardrobe because of NWL. So that was my closest to ever being treated like a WWE talent, because this is the first time in my life someone totally invested in me. And I was so proud to be a part of that company. And I had a really, really good following with the fans in Kansas City, whether it was in Kansas City or when we went to Overland Park. The kids were with me. The parents were with me. It's like when they would see me, it just reminded them of the good old days of professional wrestling that they remember. And we had that connection from day one, and they were with me till the end. And I don't think I was really, I was one of the older guys in the company. I was just supposed to be, match 2, match 3 guy. I wasn't supposed to get over. I was just supposed to be plus other matches on the card, and I wrestled Jack Draper for the NWL Championship, and he's one of the biggest studs out there. I mean, I have no idea why he doesn't have a contract right. He should be on AEW TV right now. And we had a 20-minute match, and we had the crowd hooked. And when I hit that Mr. Wrestling 2 knee lift, and he put that foot on the rope at the last second, the crowd just bought it hook, line, and sinker. And yeah, I mean, I have so many wonderful memories from NWO, and I wouldn't be Gil Rogers at SICW now if it wasn't for NWO.
That was a shocking company because they came in and they were trying to cherry pick, like you said, a bunch of different people from other organizations, and they were putting them under contract, and that was like the
Unheard
weirdest thing for an independent wrestler to see a contract. You know,
And they had health insurance.
wow. I mean, you don't hear that
Health
either.
insurance. Yeah. That's amazing.
It's a shame that guy folded. It is such a shame.
And did you know this is what he wanted was, okay, St. Louis, Kansas City was the first rivalry, but he wanted to do this in several states, have like these city rivalries. Like he wanted to have cities in Texas. He wanted this to be several states.
Man, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Bobby,
But
do
he
you
just spent too
remember?
much money up front.
$30 million wouldn't have been enough to achieve that goal.
Yeah, I don't know what he spent, but I just know he spent a lot of money, and I mean, it's just I'll always be grateful if I ever see Major down at a Kansas City Royals game. I always go up and shake his hand and tell him, Major, thank you for believing in me and giving me an opportunity, because no one else did.
Well, a big money thing here in St. Louis was he was wrestling. He had everyone wrestle at the Wrestling at the Chase Ballroom, and they weren't cutting that guy any slack on the amount of money to rent that place, and that was a lot of money because I know Herb has, tried to get that place before, before the NWA came back to town, and it's just crazy how much the NWA spends just to rent that place for the 2 maybe 3 nights that they're in town.
Yeah, from what I heard, St. Louis was very difficult to deal with for Major. Just being a promoter, they would not help him at all. Kansas City was easier to deal with, but even that though, the Scottish Rite Temple was very expensive as well. It's like if we could have only moved to a building sooner, and maybe we would have been open a little bit longer.
Bobby, one of our friends, or at least I still keep in touch with him, Brad Fox. He would do the Brody gimmick for SICW. He had the long hair.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was always. He was in the SICW locker room for a while. Very nice guy.
Yeah.
I teamed with him one time in a 6-man tag. It was myself, Brad Fox, and Sharkbait. And when NWL closed, now there's CSW. It's called Central States Wrestling in Kansas City, where I'll be in Lenexa, Kansas on the 29th. I wrestled him there, and we had a hell of a match in front of that crowd. And Jimmy Hart was my manager. And we had the crowd believing I was going to beat this big monster. We had them believing. And then at the last second, it just didn't work out for poor old Gil.
Yeah. Nathan, Brad looked just like a Bruiser Brody. He had the long curly hair. He had the long beard. He even did he did the sound. Had the furry boots. Herb just, of course, loved him. But yeah, he got cherry picked.
Didn't Stan Hansen kind of give him a double take too when he looked at him, looked him in the eyes? I'm like, wow.
Right. Yeah. He was a cool guy.
What did Barbara think?
I don't know. I don't think he ever made it to one of the battle royals that she came in for.
Man.
But yeah, now he's done cut his hair. He doesn't look anything like he used to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's that guy on the East Coast that's trying to do a Bruiser Brody ripoff.
There's always going to be. The guy that came up from Texas is doing it.
Is he anywhere near Brody's size, or is he a smaller guy doing it?
He was about the skinnier than you, Jim, but wasn't he a little bit shorter than you two? Probably about 5'10", 5'11"?
You talking about the guy from the Fan Fest?
Yeah.
He was from Texas.
Oh, it's Texas? I thought it was East Coast. That the promotion was setting up in.
No. The promotion that actually brought him up is from Southern Missouri, and I guess he got in touch with that promoter, and that promoter, brought him up and paid for it. But since Brody has passed away, which reminds me, today is the actual anniversary of his passing. Unfortunately, it was today that he got stabbed in Puerto Rico. But Vince McMahon has tried to bring back that character so many times, with the Berserker, and with the Blue Twins. I think they were called the Blue Twins. They were the Blue. Help me out. Was it the Blue?
Eli and Jacob Blue, managed by Dutch Mantel.
Yeah, I mean they had the gimmick for a while.
Uncle Debediah or something. They couldn't call him Dutch.
I mean, that character is so legendary that it'll always come back. Someone will always try to reclaim it. They just no one has ever.
I really think at some point they were going to do a Bruiser Brody Hulk Hogan, match.
They keep saying that. Everyone I've talked to, whether it be Barb or Herb, that was going to be something. But Bruiser was always about the money, and I guess the money wasn't right. Or I also heard that he was still very big in Japan, and he didn't want to lose. And
I think by like 90, he probably would have been finally like, okay, it's time to go make that money.
That's true too.
Yeah, but Herb said at one point in the early 90s that Frank was needing a elbow surgery or a replacement because he was constantly wrestling with fractures.
Everyone, but most of the time you can watch him. He didn't wear knee pads, and if he did, they were down by the boots. So I mean,
and he would drop a knee, right?
Right. Yeah, that was one of his things, was dropping a knee. So
yeah, that's brutal.
I don't do the elbow pads, but I have knee pads on.
All right, so I want to talk about a bad period in your life. The breaking of did you have a broken leg, or what happened that took you out for a few years? Because it's been a while since you've been in SICW.
No, I tore my quadricep in April of 22. Before the show at CSW in Kansas, getting ready for the show, and so I did my therapy. 4 months into my rehab, I had to go back to the doctor. I was like, this doesn't look right. Something's not right here. I'm going to physical therapy. I'm at my job working. You said as long as I wore my brace, I could go back to work. And I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. And I go in there, and that doesn't look right. So let's do an MRI. And so 4 months after my first surgery, he's like, I'm sorry, some of the sutures broke. Sutures, we call it sutures. Sutures broke inside, and we're going to have to do the surgery again.
Ooh.
I'm like, I haven't even been back in the ring to tear it. I was like, I'm just going to work. I'm walking. I'm not out there pole vaulting or anything. How did the sutures broke from just walking at work and doing therapy? And he didn't take any responsibility for it. He just said sorry. Okay. And so I have to do the surgery again. So I had to start all over again. So instead of being out 6 months, I'm out for a year. I missed out on a match with Matt Cardona, the indie god. I missed out on a match with his tag partner, Brian Myers. These are 2 trips I would have been flown to New York to do their Major Wrestling Bigger Podcast live wrestling show called the FWF. When you're older like me and you get a payday, hotel, airfare, you relish those opportunities. And Definitely. That was 2 times it was taken away because of an idiot doctor.
Now, are you friends with Matt Cardona? Because I've seen some YouTube videos of him on stage where they're doing I don't know if it was some sort of like autograph signing, And, lo and behold, I see you in the background somewhere.
See, are you just lurking for your shot at him?
I'm staying in contact because I want that match, and I know what's going to happen is he's going to re-sign with WWE, so he doesn't have to face me.
Well,
He's gonna run from you. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And how convenient was that? At CW, we were supposed to wrestle each other last year, and he tears his bicep. I would have wrestled with a torn quadricep, but then he gets his little bicep tear.
Yeah.
He has another arm too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the indie god.
The funny thing is, I've torn my bicep. My bicep has been torn for, I don't know, about 8 months or so, and I continue to wrestle on it, so. But yeah, my left one is torn. And it happened in the ring.
And I'm living rent-free. What's that saying, living rent-free in someone's mind?
Yeah.
He's on the Sam Roberts show. He's like, I'm not going to be out there wrestling naked like Rory Fox. He said it on there. He said it on Busted Open Radio. He still put my name out there. I know he wants that match.
There you go.
We need to get the main room at the expo and make it happen.
Oh, I wish. How about that? Matt Cardona and SICW. That would be great.
Hey, there's always...
I'd be glued to the TV in the back.
He can still stay independent and work a couple NWA shows when they come back into town. You might be able to talk to Herb about making that happen.
Yeah, how do I get on an NWA show? I don't know Billy.
Well, Herb knows
we brought
Billy.
one of Billy's other wrestlers in while you were out there.
Okay.
Yeah, so they talk all the time about the St. Louis.
I know Trevor Murdoch very well. Maybe he could vouch for me. I don't know.
There you go. So you're back in SICW. You said you're working for Central States later this month. Yeah. Are you still going everywhere you can? You still making Texas trips? You still going up to Iowa? Oh, not.
I won't go to Texas now unless they fly me. But right now, I'm Gil Rogers up and down I-70. I'm hitting St. Louis. I'm hitting Kansas City. I'll do the Omaha area if they're running again. But otherwise, my other persona, I was just in Steel Domain Wrestling Saturday night at Kent Herbeck's softball complex. Wrestled in front of 500 people at this show. I do Minneapolis, St. Louis, Kansas City. I do Sioux City. I'm hoping to get into Omaha too, to Magnum Pro Wrestling, and then I have Des Moines, and I have several cities in Iowa. So I'm pretty busy. I'm good. If it was like the territory days, I'd have my whole little loop.
That is cool.
I'm good with that. I mean, I have to drive everywhere pretty much 5 hours, but I'm fine with that. I like getting on the road anyway. I'm a weekend warrior. I like getting in the car and getting on.
That is awesome. So I know we talked about a lot of your highlights. If there was one thing that you would pick out, what would be like your top thing that you've ever done? Would it be the Haku?
That's definitely up there. And I didn't tell you guys, I was actually on the Brian Pillman Memorial Show in 2000.
Were you?
Which that's the famous show of the Chris Benoit William Regal match that got Regal a job with WWE. I did a tag team match on that show. That was pretty memorable.
That is.
I don't know. I really enjoyed working Honky Tonk Man in Texas. That was a really big highlight because he was larger than life to me. So that was a pretty cool thing. I mean, Stevie Richards in Houston on ECW was big.
I didn't think ECW went that way. Was that under the WWE?
Oh, that was WWE ECW.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do anything with ECW there. I also did a WCW Thunder taping in Terre Haute, Indiana. Les Thatcher there. I will say Les Thatcher got me booked on that show. I want to say he did get me that booking. He did vouch for me for that show. Thank you, Les. Terre Haute, Indiana. Oh, I had a match that night. I mean, he's called Ice Train, but at that time he was MI Smooth. And one of the funny moments was during Thunder. See, I wrestled on the syndicated show, but during Thunder, I had to be one of the grips. So I'm out there with the cables and all that stuff. And this is when Canyon was imitating DDP, and he just give canyon cutters to anybody around. And he got me, Madman, or Taxi Driver Anthony McMurphy, and Matt Striker, all of us HWA guys. We were all cameramen around ringside, and we all took diamond cutters from Canyon. That was pretty cool.
Man.
Striker was up there with you guys?
That was the first time I seen Sting in person, 2000. Seeing Sting walk down the hallway there, like, holy shit, this is the big time. There's Sting, there's Booker T, there's Buff Bagwell, there's Ric Flair, there's Shane Douglas. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this. That was pretty
That's
cool.
awesome. Man,
yeah,
I mean,
there's lots of cool things I did. I don't know if I could say probably still, yeah, number one was probably Haku at the Target Center.
man, it sounds like you actually had I've learned a lot today because I didn't think, I knew you knew a lot of people, but I didn't think you were on WWE and WCW and did a match with ECW. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. You actually had a great career for an independent wrestler,
Yeah, I got to do a lot of cool things. I try not to dwell too much on that I never got the contract, but where I came from, I think I did pretty well considering where I came from. And,
the city of 100 people.
Back then, being an undersized guy.
Yeah. It kills me because now that you say it, when we had Gary Jackson on, that was his downfall too. He was just short. But others like Ron Powers has made it to WCW, and it didn't work out for him. And then unfortunately Attila Khan, was working for WWF at the time, and he didn't get pulled. So
yeah, I'm surprised Harley didn't get him in when he was doing the drill sergeant gimmick.
Yeah, it's
why couldn't Harley help him?
Well, he did have some workings on shows that weren't televised matches.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But he never got.
So he did get some of that to an extent.
At least he got a dark match. I never got a dark match. I never got to have a dark match and show them what I could truly do. All I had to do was do the enhancement stuff. I didn't get to showcase what I could do.
Yeah, I've heard stories where he's had the dark matches. He's had where he's gone down, spent an entire weekend and didn't even get the dark match. Like he was just sitting around, things like that. But he did get opportunities. Just that size always got him.
But let's talk about Ron Powers though. Do you think maybe if Smoky Mountain Wrestling would have stuck around longer, you think maybe Ron could have had a spot in there? Or is he too similar to Tony Anthony, Dirty White Boy? Or do you think he could have been his tag partner or something?
Well, he was running in Japan they were billing him as Brody's son. So he was doing that because he was trained by Brody for a partial amount of his training, and Brody took him everywhere. So I don't know if it was because he associated with the rebellion of wrestling that didn't get him.
Yeah, by association.
Right, one of those things. But he had the height and he had the look.
Yeah.
Because he was wrestling in WCW. He made it on television.
Was he doing WCW Saturday nights?
I believe so. He was doing that because there's matches on the internet of him and the Giant versus each other.
I say you can search him in WCW on YouTube and pull a few up.
Yeah, and he was a regular.
He could have made some good money too when they would go down to the Disney tapings. That was a week's worth of tapings they would do down there, And, he wrestled on those,
I mean, it just amazes me that you guys, so many people get so close.
Yeah.
But I mean, from what you've done, man, I would love to have the experience that you've had. I've only got to rub elbows with people. I never made it anywhere to a showcase or a dark match or anything like that. So I mean, your career is freaking awesome to me. So I would surely be proud of what you've accomplished.
Yeah, how many wrestlers now can say they took a hit from the Honky Tonk Man's guitar?
Yeah. Yeah.
And live to survive it.
And that's the thing I wanted to tell you guys too, so if you don't know. Now, the MTV thing got me so far. It got me in the door. Like when I moved, I was living in Iowa, and I was like, God, I don't know where to go from here. And I called up my uncle in Texas, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm tired of being here. He said, well, move down to San Antonio. So I went down in January of 2007, and I stayed there till July of 2009. I worked for a dozen indie promotions there. I won like 5 championships down there. I did WWE extra talent work in like 5 or 6 cities 2 or 3 times a year. And that was the thing. MTV got my foot in the door, but I got to showcase the no good piece of crap heel I can be, and it got over everywhere. And, I get a lot of validation out of that, too. I didn't have any friends down there. I didn't have any hookup. All I got was, okay, you're the MTV guy. We'll give you a match here. And it turned into me winning championships all over these different promotions and them investing in me. And that makes me pretty proud, too.
Definitely. Anytime a promotion sees something in you and, promotes the hell out of you, I mean, it kind of shows that you have it. A lot of people say you don't know what it is, but if you have it, you know it.
It's like Chris Jericho says, if you can get over in one place, you can get over everywhere. You can get over. But, sometimes you just don't get that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I hope that everyone sees this and then gets you that match that you deserve against Matt Cardona.
Yeah, so. I really hope it. I really hope it's soon because I don't want to wait 5 years after he gets fired from WWE again. I don't want to be in my 50s when I finally get my match with him.
I think you're still watching this.
I can't retire until I get my match with Matt Cardona.
I think even at your 50s, you're going to beat him, though, when you get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to bring him to my home promotion, then he's going to have to take over.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have to let me know when that is so I can come up there.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me on tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's definitely I've learned so much about you, and more than I thought I knew. So, man, once you have that match, you'll definitely come back on, and you can tell us all about it, about how you whooped them from post to post. But I'm sure SICW is going to have you back. Are you going to be back next month on the card?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to be back August 12th. I'm bringing my Strike Force t-shirt, and I'm going to get my picture with Tito Santana. Arriba.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I tell you what, it's been a thrill to have you here on the podcast. Definitely probably one of my favorite interviews that we've done. And
we didn't even have to talk much. You just do it for us.
Oh, yeah. And that's
I
even
can talk
better.
quite a bit, but speaking of that, Texan, since you enjoyed this podcast so much, does that earn me a title match?
Hey, Sunday night, Herb interviewed me, and he told me, he goes, you got a bullseye on your back. And I said, I know. I said, enemies and friends, they are going to come for me. So,
right.
As I just posted on my Facebook, when I reposted that match from 5 years ago, I'm ready for a rematch with Gil Rogers myself. I've learned a lot in 5 years.
Oh, yeah. You sure have. You've been winning all the championships and Battle Royals.
the Central States and everything. But yeah, if we can get Herb involved and the timing's right, I have no problem giving you a shot, man.
Well, thank you very
earned it
much.
in my book.
All right.
Well, I think it's been great. It's definitely been longer than an hour, and I know I try to only pull an hour of time out of you guys that come on because I know you guys are very busy. So we definitely went over an hour. So I'm sorry for that, but man, the good stories that you're telling, we just had to keep going.
That's right.
But
As it almost sounds like we could do another hour.
I know it.
We'll have to bring you on again.
All right.
We have to because I still have a lot of questions. Getting into the dirt since you have been around old school and new school, you got to have those dirt stories of being on the road.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some stories.
All right, so that's it. We'll have to have you back. I'll put you on the list. We'll get you. You're at the top of the list. We'll definitely have you back soon.
All right.
All right. So for the Squared Ring podcast, thank you, Gil Rogers. We'll see you next month on the 12th. I know you're going to bring your A game, whoever you got. I know the card hasn't been announced yet, except for me and Bobby's match.
So there's one match.
Hustlers. So that's a great match there. Hopefully we'll get the tag straps.
Just win some more championships. Jeez.
I know it.
I think they'll look great around our waist.
But I'll be back August 12th. Monkey flips, airplane spins, and Mr. Wrestling 2 knee lifts.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure I think all of us agree. It's been a definite pleasure, and we'll definitely have you back on very soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.
Thank you.
You guys have a good night, and we'll see you August 12th. Belleville, Illinois, Fairgrounds. You guys have a good night.
See you later.
All right.